Hey there, so I've been playing a lot of Danny's World, probably too much of Danny's World to be honest, and I've been absolutely loving the diversity of characters in this game. But here's a question that no one on this website has ever asked. What if you put them in a tier list? But before that, here's a guide for the uninitiated about the mechanics of Toons. Skip to this timestamp if you already know everything about Toons and their accompanying stats. Toons have 3 hearts and 15 stat stars, 2 hearts and 16 stat stars respectively if you're a main, each allocated into 5 different stats that a Toon can have. This includes Skill Check, which determines how much a Toon progresses when hitting a great skill check, along with how big the skill check size is. Movement Speed, which determines the walk and run speed of a Toon. Stamina, which determines the size of the stamina bar. Stealth, which determines which person a Twisted prioritizes, along with the distance required to be spotted. And Extraction Speed, which determines how fast you can do machines. Along with this, Toons have a passive or active ability, both if you're a main, that generally help define their role on the team. Generally, each Toon is evaluated on how well they can distract Twisteds, usually requiring a 4-star movement speed or higher, or how fast they can extract machines. Any unique utility and support a Toon can bring to a run can help their placement in this tier list as well. Also, keep in mind this list is entirely subjective and you can realistically use just about anyone and do well. And also I'm a dumb stupid heads who has bad opinions, so feel free to disagree. Without further ado, we're starting off with one of the best Toons in the game, and you wouldn't really know it from its stats, but Astro's ability to refill Distractor stamina bars makes him invaluable for runs. That, combined with Astro's high stealth shielding him from most Twisteds, makes him a near must-pick. Astro doesn't really have any other notable stats, but his niche is amazing enough to put him into A tier. So Boxten's one of the 2 starter Toons you get, which gives him a really weird stigma despite him being a pretty solid character. Yeah, Boxten's average stat spread is pretty great in this game, and with 8 players he ends up becoming a near 5-star extractor. The only problem is that Boxten is heavily reliant on Toons surviving to get the most out of his passive, which can be unreliable in public lobbies. Because Boxten's overall usefulness varies wildly, I don't feel like Boxten has enough to make it into B, therefore landing him around C tier. Honestly, when I started playing this game, I thought Brightney was one of the best characters in the game. Who cares about stealth? So what if Twisteds prioritize you? How naive I was. Brightney has the worst stealth in the game, requiring extreme coordination from your distractor in order to not lead Twisted straight to her. And what do you get? An okay stat line and an ability that only works during blackouts, which are admittedly pretty dangerous. While she has a nice niche in solo runs, she just cannot perform well enough to make up for that stealth, which gives her a high D tier. There really isn't much to be said about Cosmo that hasn't been said about Astro. Both of them bring invaluable utility at the cost of lackluster stats. Although Cosmo suffers more as a result of that 1-star skill check, just being able to save a Toon at 1 heart can increase the longevity of a run by multiple floors, which is insanely useful. Cosmo's utility is a little harder to manage in random lobbies, but combined with other health-sustaining Toons like Sprout, Cosmo can be an absolute menace. Definite A tier. Honestly, I never really understood the point of Finn. Finn's passive is nice, but you can't make much use out of it without some coordination or some gimmick builds. And outside of that, you have a stat line that is just fine. 4-star skill check is good for extracting, and 2-star stamina is super manageable, but it just feels like Finn is missing something that can make him truly special. Finn is definitely a solid Toon though, which is why he's getting a C tier. So with a stat line like Flutter's, you can almost immediately tell what kind of character she is. 4-star speed and 4-star stamina makes her a pretty solid distractor, and that dash ability can save your life in dire scenarios. She doesn't have much other utility, but being one of the only distractors in the game is enough to give you a B tier in my opinion. I had to seriously put my bias aside when grading this character, I'm gonna be honest. She's one of my favorite Toons in this game. 5-star skill check makes her a monster extractor, and whilst 1-star stamina is rough, with the right items it's pretty manageable. Speaking of items, Gigi has an insanely fun active ability, letting her get any item in the entire game. Most items are generally useful though, but Gigi's ability to pull game-changing items, such as Medkit or Smoke Bomb, out of thin air can be absolutely life-saving. With my love for Gigi aside, I have to admit that her ability is way too reliant on RNG to really be reliable, but her stats are great enough to land her in B tier. Here we have another extractor, and you can definitely tell that by his insane 5-star extraction speed. Unfortunately, that 2-star stealth is really brutal for both Glisten and his theoretical distractor, as he'll constantly steal aggro if he's within the vicinity of them. His ability is more of a selfish get-out-of-jail-free card, but it's a great in a pinch and can save his life if he accidentally pulls the wrong Twisted. With good coordination, Glisten can be great, but there is still better extractors than Glisten. Would be a C tier, but that side profile bumps him up to a low B. Goob may seem like Flutter, just a typical distractor with a seemingly worse ability, but that 2-star stealth is secretly his X factor. Being able to constantly take aggro, especially from other 2-star stealth Toons, makes his team's life a whole lot easier. Plus, that ability can be especially useful during panic mode at the elevator to save a Toon's life. While there are distractors that provide more utility, Goob is a fantastic choice just for a stealth niche, which lands him in a high B tier. Pebble is a combination of every trait you could want from a distractor, and it's glorious. 5-star speed and 4-star stamina means Pebble is min-maxed to run Twisted forever. Not only that, but his ability is essentially a free air horn, making Pebble great at fixing other Toons' mistakes and keeping Twisteds on himself for longer. His ability to find items is a little random in my opinion, but everything else about him is perfect for the role he's expected to play. Easy S tier. From one of the best to possibly the worst, Poppy is unfortunately just really terrible. She doesn't do anything particularly wrong, with her stats being exactly average, but she doesn't bring anything meaningful to runs. Her ability relies on her getting hit, and with health being a precious resource, you are rarely going to get use out of this ability. No clear role and no useful utility, Poppy gets D tier. Razzle&Dazzle is a Toon defined by their ability, as can be seen by their stat spread. Every other floor they swap their extraction speed for movement speed and vice versa, meaning they essentially swap roles every floor. This is neat, but keep in mind that a 1-star movement speed extractor is brutal for survival, and having a distractor half the time is super awkward in terms of coordination. Realistically, having a dedicated extractor and distractor is generally better than having a Razzle&Dazzle on your team. While I think you can make Razzle&Dazzle work, they just don't justify their own existence, making them a low C tier. It's almost unfair to judge Rodger on a tier list like this, and his ability is really only useful for progressing your account. But surprisingly, Rodger's 4-star extraction speed makes him a pretty alright extractor, even if his 2-star movement speed doesn't do him much favors. While Rodger doesn't deserve anything more than a C tier, he has an important place in my heart. Thank you, Rodger. Poor Scraps. She did not deserve the stat spread. Stamina is debatably the least important stat to have, at least in terms of a non-distractor, and Scraps having no other notable stat just makes this more evident. She brings nothing to the table in terms of a team, and whilst her ability can save her in dire situations, it's just a selfish ability that doesn't help the run at all. For not having a defined role, she goes straight into D tier. Debatably the best extractor in the game, except you, and an amazing stat line to boot. Generally, most Toons sacrifice something in one area to be beneficial to others, but Shelly sacrifices nothing for her amazing 5-star skill check. Her ability isn't the most amazing, but being able to make floors go by faster is incredibly nice, and her passive is a great cherry on top of her amazing kit. There isn't really much else to be said. Shelly is just a fantastic Toon and absolutely deserves an S tier. So, Shrimpo is an F tier. Next. Sprout is another Toon defined almost entirely by their ability, specifically being the ability to heal others with tapes. This alone makes his healing a lot less RNG reliant, compared to Cosmo at least, and this allows Sprout to capitalize on the high amount of tapes within a run. Surprisingly, Sprout also excels as a distractor, with the 5-star stamina and 4-star movement speed, although Sprout truly shines when he's just allowed to roam around and get some tapes. Sprout, with all strengths, gets an A tier in my ranking. Since the tier list is more so focused on a Toon's ability to perform well in group-based runs, Teagan's selfish ability and lackluster 2-star stealth really hurt her in terms of performance on the tier list. Fortunately, Teagan has a great niche as a solo character, as stealth matters far less and teams are in surplus. This, however, doesn't affect her ranking too much, and as such a C tier feels correct for her lackluster group performance. Tisha was oddly hard to rank, as she has an incredibly unique skill set among her peers. 4-star skill check and 4-star movement speed make her one of the few rare Toons you can play as a distractor and extract, although she doesn't particularly excel in either field. She also has a significant speed boost as her ability, although that too is hard to use without a 4-star stealth stat. Either way, due to her versatile kit, she makes a fantastic pick for almost any run, and that amount of versatility definitely deserves an A tier. Toodles honestly doesn't make as terrible as a first impression as she seems, but then you realize that 4-star stealth is kinda useless on a character without utility. She also can't distract, so she's stuck as an extractor with 2-star extraction speed and just no other real benefits. Her ability is random, and unlike Gigi, whose ability can at least be a little useful, you aren't gonna get too much use out of ability that works less than half the time you want it to. Definitely a D tier. V is possibly the most polarizing Toon on the roster. 5-star extraction speed and 4-star skill check makes her the best extractor in the game, but that 2-star stealth and 2-star movement speed also makes her most likely to die. Highlighting the next machine for yourself and every twisted for everyone are both great tools that save a ton of time, but it doesn't make up for all of these downsides. She's a great Toon and can be an invaluable asset for the team, but she also requires a lot of coordination in order to reduce the risk she brings. B tier may seem harsh, but she's contesting against a lot of really great Toons, and it's hard to justify her going higher. And with that, that's all the tunes. Let me know in the comments where you guys have put the tunes, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see in the future. Thanks so much, and see you guys next time.